Welcome to the reading of the Sabbath School lesson for the second quarter of 2022. Welcome to lesson number 9 in the series on Genesis, titled Jacob the Supplanter. It's ready for teaching on May 28, and my name's Percy Harrold. Thursday, May 26, Jacob leaves. In this story, Jacob, who deceived his father and his brother to acquire the family birthright, and who stole the blessing that Isaac designed to give to his elder son, nevertheless remained passive toward Laban and served him faithfully. Jacob knows well that he has been deceived by his father-in-law, and yet he let it go. It is difficult to understand Jacob's passivity considering his temperament. Jacob could have revolted, or at least resisted Laban, or bargained with him, but he didn't. He just did what Laban asked, no matter how unfair it all was. Nevertheless, at the birth of Rachel's first son, Joseph, Jacob finally reached the 14th year of his service to Laban, as we read in Genesis chapter 30 and verse 26. "Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my service which I have done for you." And now considers leaving Laban in order to return to the promised land. But Jacob is concerned about providing for his own house, as he says in verse 30, "For what you had before I came was little, and it has increased to a great amount. The Lord has blessed you since my coming, and now when shall I also provide for my own house?" Read Genesis chapter 30, verses 25 to 32. What is happening here, and what kind of reasoning does Jacob use? What is Laban's response? Genesis 30, beginning at verse 25, "And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away, that I may go to my own place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go. For you know my service which I have done for you. And Laban said to him, Please stay, if I have found favour in your eyes, for I have learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me for your sake. Then he said, Name me your wages, and I will give it. So Jacob said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your livestock has been with me. For what you had before I came was little, and it has increased to a great amount. The Lord has blessed you since my coming, and now when shall I also provide for my own house? So he said, What shall I give you? And Jacob said, You shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the brown ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages." It had been a very long detour for Jacob, who had long been gone from home. It probably had not been his original intention to stay away from his country for so long, but events kept him away for years. It's now time to return home, and what a family he will return with too. Meanwhile, Jacob's unnatural compliance suggests that Jacob has perhaps changed. He has understood the lesson of faith. That is, Jacob waits for God's signal to go. It is only when God speaks to him that Jacob decides to move. God reveals himself to Jacob as the God of Bethel and commands Jacob to leave Laban's house and return to your family, as it says in verse 13 of chapter 31. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now arise, get out of this land and return to the land of your family, with the same words that God used to call Abram to leave from your family in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. What helped him see that it was time to go too was the attitude of Laban's sons and Laban himself, as we read in Genesis 31, verses 1 and 2. Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what was our father's he has acquired all this wealth. And Jacob saw the countenance of Laban, and indeed it was not favourable toward him as before. In Patriarchs and Prophets, page 193, we read, Jacob would have left his crafty kinsman long before, but for the fear of encountering Esau. Now he felt that he was in danger from the sons of Laban, who, looking after his wealth as their own, might endeavour to secure it by violence. End of quote. Hence he took his family and possessions and left, thus beginning another phase in the great saga of God's covenant people. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.